So I want to ask people watching this, if you were a citizen of North Korea, how would you know that what you were being told is a lie? And the answer is, most of us wouldn't. You know, it's very easy for us as Americans to look at North Korea and even mock that country and mock the people and think, wow, these people must be incredibly stupid. How can they not know that their leader is such a charlatan? How can they not know they're part of some national cult, a political cult? How can they not realize this? And the answer is, most people in the Western world today, if they grew up in North Korea, they would behave just like the North Koreans. They would worship their leader. They would not question anything that was told to them. They would believe their local press, because that's the way they act today. They believe everything they see on CNN. They worshiped Obama like a god in 2008. And they've never had any kind of real clarity on really who they are or the bigger picture, the worldview of what's actually going on and their role in it. They're not critical thinkers. They fail to see that what's happening in America today is a reflection of the kind of totalitarian propaganda police state that also exists in North Korea.
The North Korean army consists of over 1 million men and 6 million reservists.
Kim Il-sung is everywhere in North Korea.
North Korea is famous for creating a cult of personality around the leaders of the country, and Kim Jong-un is no exception.
Millions have little food. This footage smuggled out.
In 1978, Kim Jong-il kidnapped a South Korean film director in Hong Kong to jumpstart North Korea's film industry.
The U.S. Director of National Intelligence voiced doubt today that North Korea will ever give up nuclear weapons.
So how does North Korea maintain control over its population? It puts in place these really remarkable technology firewalls. They isolate their population from the world through technology so that they don't allow them to have access to social media or even international phone calls, for example. And this is one way to control your people. Then you have state-run media, which is just like the United States, where the New York Times, Washington Post, USA Today are all run by the government, influenced by the government. Basically, the government essentially writes their articles for them. And then you put out that propaganda to the people and you don't let them have access to the outside world. Boom, you've got them controlled. That's what Kim Jong-un does. That's how North Korea does it. So you say, well, wait a minute, I live in America and I've got access to the internet. They're not putting boundaries on me. I'm getting real news and real truth all over the place. They can't control me. Oh yes, they can. They're using that technology against you through social conformity. So now we have the internet gatekeepers, Facebook, Twitter, Google News, the search engines. They are using social conformity and selective censorship now to create psychological boundaries in your mind. They're just as insidious and have just as much control as actual technology barriers used by North Korea. So now in America, in the Western world, you think you have access to real information, but what's really happening is you're part of a grand social network of conformity and social engineering and demanded obedience by all of your peers. So now the social network is used against you like a weapon to influence and control your views and beliefs and even control your language through politically correct language police, so that you now conform to the system. Guess what? You've just done exactly what all the people are doing in North Korea. They're conforming to the system. The difference is you think you're free and you think they're not free, but in North Korea, they think they're free and they think you're evil. So North Korea controls its people by pointing to the West and saying, look at this evil American empire. They're always attacking us and threatening us and taking our money, and this is why you're starving. You know, this is why you're suffering. It's because of America over there. And so the North Korean government, and Kim Jong-un in particular, stays in power by having this foreign enemy. And they control the message about the enemy, don't they? It's their propaganda that says America is evil, and it's their history books, and it's their movies, and everything that shapes your belief as a North Korean person about how evil America is. Well, we're told the same thing in America. We're told there's this horrible enemy overseas. They're terrorists, don't you know? And this is why you're suffering, and this is why you have to give up your rights. And this is why we have to monitor all your emails and all your web surfing habits and monitor your bank accounts. And this is why you have no privacy. It's the same story. A different country, Same story, same technique. So all of you people out there who are laughing at North Korea, ask yourself how obediently and pathetically you line up to be searched by the TSA every time you travel through the airport. You are no different than the North Korean citizens. You are no more critical, you are no more aware, you're no more capable of thinking for yourself than they are. And yeah, some of you watching this, you are critical thinkers, and that's why you're following my work. But most people in America, even in the Western world, in Western Europe, for example, are just as much enslaved and captured and propagandized by their governments as the people of North Korea. So you think, well, gee, North Korea, they have to build fences and minefields to keep their citizens in. They won't even let their citizens leave. Well, in America, it's now law that they can take your passport and they can prevent you from leaving if they think you owe the IRS money, even if you don't. All they have to do is assert that they think you owe them money and they can prevent you from leaving. Is that the trait of a free society? That imprisons you until you pay up? A country that has the highest per capita prison population in the world? Did you know that there are more people in prison as a percentage in America than there are even in North Korea? A lot of Americans don't think about that because they are brainwashed by their own system. They're no more capable of critical thought than the people of North Korea. And if you look at North Korea and you ask, which of these citizens are actually thinking for themselves, it's the ones who are escaping and then blowing the whistle on what it's been like back at home. They're the ones leaving the country and then having an ability to talk about it from the outside where they're not subjected to the oppression of that country. Well, who can talk about the United States without being subjected to the oppression and the weaponization of the IRS and the political pressure that is put on you? It's expats. People who have left America can talk about America with some sense of freedom. But people living in America cannot, because you're always subject to the tyranny of the regime in power. You're always subject to it. You no more have the right to speak your mind in the United States than a citizen in communist China, because you're going to suffer just as many repercussions. They just look a little different. So you can lose your job in America. You can lose a government grant. You can be banned from social media. So there are all kinds of different punishments that destroy your character and destroy your sense of self-identity in a Western world, instead of just throwing you in a dark prison cell somewhere, which is what happens in North Korea or a place like China. It's no less of a destruction of your person. You are just as much enslaved in Western society as anybody living in North Korea today. It's just that the appearance of freedom is more convincing. In America today, you're told incredible detailed lies about how, oh gosh, you get to vote at an election, you get to shape the future of the country, it's all up to you, that people in government are your servants, they just do what the people tell them to do, and if you don't like them, you can throw them out at the next election and you can have people who represent your interests. Really? Only a fool believes that. Only someone who's fallen for all the propaganda would even believe all those lies. In truth, America is run by a political class of globalists, elitists, who only create the illusion of democracy to keep the people in line so that they don't rise up and revolt and throw them out of office or march on Washington. You are part of an elaborate theater that, from a global perspective, is no different than the elaborate theater that's taking place in North Korea today. It's just a different kind of theater. It's called Netflix, it's called Amazon Prime movies, it's called Hollywood, it's called daytime TV, it's called CNN or MSNBC. It's just a different kind of propaganda to indoctrinate you into a system of control that gives you the illusion that you're a free citizen when you're nothing close to it. You don't have a choice about where this country goes or who's running the government, or how your tax money is spent in Washington. You don't have a say. You don't have a choice. And you're condemned to this economic caste system where the political elite in Washington confiscate all the money from you and distribute it amongst themselves while keeping you locked in a never-ending state of poverty and government dependence. And guess where else that happens? North Korea. Same formula, different kind of illusion. The illusion in North Korea is that Kim Jong-un is a god figure who you should worship because he's superhuman and he's going to protect you from the evil Western empire of America. The illusion in America is that you're living in a democracy and you can shape the future of the government, and the government cares about you and they're going to protect you from the evil empire of terrorists in the Middle East. The stories are practically interchangeable. The mythologies, the false narratives, it's all from the same script, and everybody's suckered into it. It really gets down to a question of, self-awareness. Very few people, not even 1 in 1,000 really has achieved a level of self-awareness where they can look around and they can question the entire system of apparent reality around them. It's called lucidity. Almost everyone is going through life in a state of constant self-delusion, thinking to themselves that, they are in control, they are making their decisions. People who watch TV and say, advertising doesn't affect me, and then they turn around and go to the grocery store and they buy Tide laundry detergent. Why? Because there was an ad on TV that they said didn't affect them, but it did actually, because they're not in control. And they can't see the truth around them, and they can't question reality. It's like the Truman Show. They're living in the Truman Show constantly. That's most people. Even most people watching this video are living in a giant Truman Show and have no freaking idea, because they're conformists. And some people even are conformists to the idea of nonconformity. It's become cool to be a nonconformist, and so they sort of latch on to that, they jump on that bandwagon, just like other sheeple out there who are conformist sheeple. Nonconformity is not a hip movement. It's a state of being. It's a state of true enlightenment. It's questioning everything that's happening around you and questioning the information, questioning beliefs, questioning other people, questioning your own senses and your own values. You're just as controlled, you're just as deceived in North America as you are in North Korea. Now, don't misinterpret any of this to think in any way that I would be supportive of North Korea. Not at all the case. In my opinion, in fact, North Korea needs to be set free. And that would probably involve some kind of combination of political, economic, and military action to set those people free, because they really are enslaved. But I also think that people living in America need to be set free. And we need to rid ourselves of this domineering, totalitarian political class in Washington that enslaves us too. I happen to believe in universal human freedom, not just selective human freedom. So I believe that every citizen everywhere around the world should have a constitution, should have a Bill of Rights. I believe in the right to own firearms and to bear arms in self-defense and for community safety and law and order globally. I think that every country should have a Second Amendment. I think that every country should have a First Amendment. I think that universal human rights should include universal Bill of Rights that we have in the United States, everywhere around the world. And really, until that is accomplished and actually respected, then none of us are totally free. We live under different regimes, and each regime has a monopolistic claim to the truth and reality. But in every case, every regime, Communist China, North Korea, even Japan, every regime around the world is peddling bullshit in order to control its population and keep people living under the illusion that they are part of something wonderful to protect their society or to move humanity forward. But really, the big global goal of every regime is to prevent you from expanding your awareness. It's to prevent you from moving forward. It's to prevent human innovation that would make their systems obsolete. It's to prevent people from achieving a high enough ability to think freely that would cause them to break free from the false mythologies and narratives that have kept them controlled for generations. Every government regime wants to keep humanity down so that they can stay in power. The tools and methods that they use to accomplish that have different flavors. They look different from the outside, but in the inside, they're all rooted in the same basic philosophy of domination, totalitarian control, limiting free-thinking capabilities, dumbing down the population, and if necessary, using coercion and force to murder opponents of the government or imprison dissidents and so on. All the same tools, all throughout human history. Nothing has changed. There's nothing new under the sun. Kim Jong-un is not unique, and he's not any more insane than the people like Hillary Clinton or Angela Merkel, for that matter. He's no more bizarre and insane than the leaders that have led Western nations for decades. So sometimes people ask me, how do I get out of this cognitive trap? How do I achieve self-awareness? And the answer, honestly, is not anything outside you. You're not going to be able to achieve this with a new iPhone 7, okay? You're not going to get it through technology or social media. In fact, what you need to do to really achieve awareness is you need to disconnect from the false realities out there. You need to disconnect from the internet, disconnect from social media. You need to start looking inward. And only by looking inward, which, by the way, is really amplified by spending time in nature, in a forest, home gardening, working in the soil, working with animals, all of these things. When you do this, it becomes meditative, and as you are able to look inward in a more meditative state, you're able to really examine your own beliefs, your own consciousness, your own sense of self-awareness. You're able to expand your view of the reality around you and ask more critical questions about your own behavior as well as the inputs from other information sources around you, whether they be social, like friends and family, or technological through the internet, media, newspapers, and so on. Being you and achieving this higher level of consciousness means casting aside all of these influences and control mechanisms that shape your brain and shape your beliefs and shape your behavior and even shape your language and word choice in order to make sure that you adhere to the obedient demands of a false narrative society. So getting rid of that should be your life's goal, in my opinion. And believe it or not, that is completely compatible with every major world religion. Christianity, Judaism, even Islam, every major world religion, in one way or another, is really telling you to stop worshiping the things you see in society and start examining yourself with greater introspection and greater humility, and only from there can you have the expansion of consciousness that leads you to become a more enlightened human being. And when you are that enlightened human being, by the way, you will not be popular. You will not be featured on the evening news. You will not be given a Nobel Prize. If those things are important to you, then you need to go down that path and give up your humanity to become whatever the system wants you to be. But instead, if you want to be a conscious, aware, intelligent, critical thinking human being, you need to cast aside any illusions that you're going to be liked for it, because you won't be. You're going to be criticized and attacked for it. But at least you'll be living a life of clarity and self-determination with expanded consciousness and awareness of the world around you, which means that wherever you happen to be born, if you're born in North Korea, born in the United States, born in Cuba, you can still achieve a sense of personal freedom, because they cannot control the thoughts and the reality between your ears. That domain is yours and yours alone. So explore it, develop it, and use it to your advantage to live a fulfilling life with real meaning. I'm now introducing the first hemp extract product that I personally vouch for. CWC Labs is serving as the science partner for the new brand called Native Hemp Solutions. We use an advanced scientific method that I pioneered at CWC Labs to accurately quantitate CBD molecules in almost any solution. If you're looking for honest, authentic hemp extracts with natural CBD content, check out nativehempsolutions.com. Well, we're sort of the science blockchain of the hemp industry, because we validate those hemp products that people are buying and consuming and putting their faith in, by the way. You know, when you buy a product that contains CBD, that's not an inexpensive decision. You're investing in a product with a hoped-for concentration of this molecule, this amazing molecule, and some of the other synergistic molecules as well, CBG, CBN, CBDA, and so on.